Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this Friday afternoon for our fundraising management certificate info session. My name is Mashur Chaudhry, and I'm the manager of recruitment and sales for the Chang School. Now, before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the land on which Toronto Metropolitan University is built upon. Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. I thank the Indigenous peoples of Turtle Island for their efforts to protect the land, and I deeply regret the past injustices they have endured. As Toronto Metropolitan University seeks to move forward in partnership with Indigenous peoples, I pledge to foster an environment that is more inclusive and welcoming of Indigenous peoples from all communities. Now, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's session. Your microphone is muted throughout the event so as not to disturb other attendees or presenters. For the hearing impaired, we have automated captioning available, which you can access by activating it in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. And you can also submit questions for our speakers at any time by typing them into the question box in your control panel. We'll collect them throughout the session and address them at the end of the presentation. Now, I'd like to introduce our guest speakers for today. Joining us, we have Krishan Mehta, Advancement Leader in Higher Education, who's also the Vice President of University Advancement and Alumni Relations, and the Academic Coordinator and Instructor for the certificate. And we have Michelle Hounslow, Executive Director of University Advancement and also a student and alumna of the course. We're excited to have them with us and look forward to their insights. Now, before we start the presentation, we wanted to do a quick poll with everybody and just get everyone's gears moving. We wanted to know what motivated you to consider this certificate. And there are the options: career advancement, career change, skill building for current role, personal interest, and others. So we'll leave that on for just a couple more seconds. Thank you for participating. It really helps provide us that feedback, and also it's a good direction for our speakers to take a look at, what everyone's thinking today. And so I'm gonna go ahead and share the results. And yeah, this is pretty consistent with our other sessions as well. Career advancement, career change, skill building. These are the more popular reasons why people are considering our certificates here at the Chang School. So thank you for sharing that. So now I'll invite Krishan Mehta to provide a brief overview of the certificate. Once again, Krishan is an advancement leader in higher education. He's the VP of University Advancement and Alumni Relations, and also the academic coordinator and instructor of the fundraising certificate. He's also an adjunct faculty in the graduate program in philanthropy and nonprofit leadership at Carleton University. So as you can tell, an expert in the field. Thank you, Krishan, for sharing your overview. Welcome.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you all for joining this info session. That's really the first step in working towards this certificate, is learning more about the unique offerings and also the impact you can have with this certificate in a career that has a focus on impact and really about supporting charities in a tangible way. Next slide, please. So this certificate was completely redesigned just a few years ago to keep in mind the evolving needs of the learners who come to the Chang School, and particularly to the world of fundraising. Our experience over the years told us that we really are attracting students from all walks of life. Students who have a little bit of experience, either in the not-for-profit sector or in a completely different sector, but have found themselves really curious and passionate about changing the sector, changing outcomes for people, passionate about a specific cause. And this program really allows for learners to dig into the art and science of fundraising, of philanthropic fundraising for charities. Our students are, as I mentioned, from all walks of life. But what we're seeing is that there are more people who are looking to advance their careers and skills, just as the poll noted, as well as really focusing on people who are able to apply some of their lived experience and professional experiences into the world of fundraising. This course is completely available online and it's asynchronous, meaning that we formed all of the modules within each course to be completed at your own time. Because we know that a lot of our students in particular have a number of obligations outside of the certificate. For example, a full-time job or family responsibilities, or perhaps other activities that may take them away from a regular classroom setting with a defined schedule. The courses are there are 5 courses in total, and each of them are available at certain times of the year. So the only thing that you really need to consider as you're planning this certificate is the sequencing of this, and we'll talk about that in more detail. Furthermore, most of our students complete the course in about a year or a year and a half, and take either 1 or 2 courses per semester. And we've really done our best to keep the costs low. $3,600 to about $4,000. And the majority of the courses that we have don't require you to purchase a textbook or other materials. A lot of the readings and other activities associated with the course are available either online, open source, available from the library. There are a couple of instances where you may wish to purchase a book for example, a course I teach for a book report, but that's all up to you. So we're trying to keep the cost at the lowest possible order for all of our students. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, there are kind of 3 clusters of people who are interested in this program. Obviously, people who want to move into the career, people who are transitioning from other careers, and those who are just really passionate about specific causes. We have people who have a tremendous experience, lived and professional experience as lawyers, accountants, nurses, who are in early childhood education, people who are have completely different interests and are just have found themselves passionate about a specific area like education. Michelle Hounslow will talk about her experience in fashion, transitioning into fundraising, and it's a really special story that she'll share with you all about that transition and the way the program had an impact on her and others. We found there are people who are in the creative fields, film and television as well, because a lot of the work that happens in fundraising is really about storytelling. Accountants contribute in a way that allows us to think more about the ways in which finance is so important to donor accountability and other things like that. So you'll see in your courses that you'll come across people with a wide range of professional experiences, and that really feeds into the enriching experience everyone has from learning from one another, in addition to the amazing course content that we've curated for you. Next slide, please. So I just want to take a moment here to tell you a little bit about what you'll learn in the certificate. We start off this course, and in fact, or this program, and every course really thinking about the ethics of fundraising. The why and the how of fundraising is equally as important, but that is underpinned by our understanding of ethics, and that's really important to this sector. As you can imagine, without the ethical underpinnings or foundational knowledge of why and how and the challenges to ethics, we really aren't able to talk more concretely about the art and science of the work. And so we focus a lot on ethical challenges and strategies. I mentioned that data is a really important part of this as well, and a new course that we established a couple of years ago focuses on data analytics and the ways in which data informs decisions and strategies within a charity. We also talk about annual giving, donor communications, and other forms of fundraising that are across the charitable sector, major gifts, event organization and planning, as well as other things like gaming and lotteries and the use of technology such as AI or perhaps even social media as a way to leverage fundraising opportunities with donors. Then we talk a little bit about some of the thornier issues, some of the emerging challenges and trends that we're seeing that are changing the ways in which fundraising is practiced and understood. Thinking about questions around equity, diversity, inclusion, and reconciliation is very important to all of us as we think about careers in fundraising or growing our career in fundraising. Issues around ethical use of technology, and how do we ensure that we are using technology to the benefit of everyone and not to only a few. These are just a few of the issues that we take up in this program as a way to keep you abreast of emerging issues that you may face as a fundraising professional and to better prepare you to address some of those challenges as you dip your toe into this work or perhaps grow into it as well. And then, of course, financial management is really important. I mentioned the course where we talk about the operations of fundraising, which is really important. Allows us to think about the financial accountability to donors and also to the other bodies like CRA, the Canadian Revenue Agency, which governs the charitable sector. Next slide, please. All right. So I mentioned that this is an asynchronous program that you can complete within a year. And of course, we are committed to sector input and to your learning because we understand that in addition to you being very busy, our instructors are all from the sector. So they all have tremendous professional experience in the world of fundraising, leading fundraising organizations, both large and small, and consulting for lots of organizations within Canada and beyond. It is also really great because of the course assignments that have been developed within each course can apply to your work. And what you end up with at the end of a certificate is really a portfolio of work that you're able to show to a potential employer. Everything from writing a letter campaign to developing a case for support to actually filling out the T3010 CRA form for accountability to charities. There's a lot of great opportunities to be able to show and tell everything you've learned in the program as a way to be able to show your enthusiasm and experience to a potential employer. Next slide, please. Great. So I mentioned 5 courses. The courses are Principles of Fundraising, which is essentially kind of like a survey course, an introductory course that is usually available every semester, so 3 times a year. Another course called Operations of Fundraising is available usually in the fall term, along with Current Issues in Fundraising, which is available in the fall. In the winter term, we offer Data Analytics for Fundraising. And in the spring term, we offer a course called Fundraising Strategies and Practices, which looks at all of the different models and techniques available to fundraisers in the sector. The cumulative GPA is 1.67 is an entry requirement for this certificate as well. Next slide. All right. Well, with that, I am delighted to take any questions later on. And I hope that this has helped you kind of get a sense of the impact you could have through this certificate. Looking forward to this conversation down the road. Mashroor.
Thank you so much, Krishan, for sharing that overview. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Michelle Hounslow, Executive Director at University Advancement and also a graduate of the certificate. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Mashur. And Christian, thank you for having me back. I love every chance I get to talk about this program because I truly credit it for helping me get launched into the fundraising sector and also to where I am in my career today. I saw about half of you are looking to make a career change, and I was exactly where you were back in 2010. I'd been working in fashion design. Fun job for a while. I did it for 14 years, but I got to the point where I really wanted to make a career change. I wanted to do something positive, something that could make change in society. I will be completely honest, I knew nothing about fundraising. I just when I started. I just thought I'm going to see where this could take me. And I actually got my first job after taking the Intro to Fundraising course, which probably is the Principles of Fundraising course now. Um, so I did my certificate back in between 2010 and 2012. So it's a slightly different course now. It's I love that it stays current, but I will say that it prepared me for so many avenues in my career. I think the best part is that you immediately get access to learning from senior nonprofit professionals. And those are also great for helping you to start building those relationships that are so important in our tiny sector. But I've done everything in my career from prospect research, campaign development. I've overhauled databases, written new business rules, proposal and grant writing, things like that. And what I do today is major gift fundraising. And I learned, I can't stress enough how important it was for me to know the basics, and the basics that I got from this series of courses, to really set me up for success in my career. And not just in your career either. You may or may not decide to go into fundraising as a career, but it also helped me in my volunteer role. I volunteered for 10 years as the director of fundraising at the Hyde Park Nature Center. And it really prepared us. We didn't have a fundraiser on staff there. So you had to jump in and do everything. And yeah, I can't stress enough the skills that you get. I think education always equals opportunity, whether it's in your job or something fulfilling in your life, like fundraising, like volunteerism. But I ended up continuing my education and I got my CFRA. So that's a professional designation. Um, but I honestly think the biggest thing in this sector is the relationships that you build. And this is a perfect place to start your network. I honestly knew no one until I took my first course. And like I said, that's how I got my first job. And in many ways, it's how I got my job today because Christian Mehta, who is our VP, hired me 10 years ago. And I worked with him for 4 years directly and still work with him today. And yeah, so I can't say enough, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions, but I really encourage you just even try one course, try the principles course, and just see where it takes you.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Michelle. It really shows how you can always pivot into something when you take that decision and take the leap. So thank you for sharing that inspiring story with us. And thanks to both Christian and Michelle for not just sharing your individual journeys, but for showing how powerful the community really is. The fact that you're connected through the Chang School through this very certificate and are now colleagues says everything. So thank you for sharing that. So now we'll open up the floor. Thank you to our speakers. We'll open up the floor for Q&A. Please submit your questions by typing them into the question box. And yeah, we have a few questions in already. The first one is, will we learn to use data and analytics for fundraising? Example, donor segmentation, performance management, things like that, ROI on campaigns.
Absolutely. All of those things will be covered and more. Also, as I mentioned, the donor analytics course is really focused on how do you use the data you're collecting? Well, first of all, how do you collect the right data? And how do you use that as a way to inform the strategies of your organization as it relates to donor engagement, sourcing new donors, strategies around which methodologies are more attractive in terms of outreach to donors, email, social media, snail mail, the rest. And of course, how do you then continue to build on the data you have to be able to grow a better understanding of who your donors are and where your organization is headed? So, absolutely, donor segmentation is a part of it. Performance is return on investment on the campaigns as part of that too, especially as you're connecting the dots between the operations of fundraising, which focuses on campaign management, and the ways in which data helps support the campaign. In addition to that, data analytics is a course that is taught by someone who runs data analytics for fundraising within TMU. And so Nirmal Adioti, who is the instructor for that course, is a real expert in deep dive data analytics, which is a real boon to have for all of us within the program.
Awesome. No, that's great. Great answer. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so next question is from Michelle K. Thank you so much, Michelle, for your questions. So just questions around availability of the courses. When is the good time to start so that you can, I guess, have that order to finish all five?
So this is a great question because what this program asks you to do is just to think a little bit about everything that's going on in your life and how much capacity you have for taking the certificate. So not every course is available every semester. So that's why the planning piece is really important on your end. Like I mentioned, the Introduction to Fundraising, which is now called Principles of Fundraising, that's CINT 916, it is available in every semester. So that's in September, in January, and again in May. The Operations of Fundraising, that's CVFM 201 and CVFM 202, which is Current Issues in Fundraising, are available in the fall semester starting in September. And then Data Analytics, which is CVFM 205, and Fundraising Strategies and Practices, which is CVFM 304, are available. Data Analytics in the winter in January and Fundraising Strategies in May. So every semester we have two courses, the intro course, the Principles of Fundraising course, and something else, except in the fall when we have not electives, but two additional courses available. So it requires a little bit of planning if you really want to finish this within a year. But if you have a bit more time, of course, you could take a bit of a break in between and take the courses when they're available in each of those semesters.
Thank you so much. And I just also put in a quick note in the chat for everyone. You can email me directly if you want to get all the details that Krishan just shared. I can share them back with you regarding when to take what courses, and we can talk and figure out and plan how to get you there. So yeah, just send me an email.
Right.
And thank you for your questions. So next question, let's move right along. Does the program address current trends and challenges in fundraising? Example, changing donor behavior, digital fundraising. So yeah, maybe if both of you can touch a little bit on that.
Sure, Michelle, you want to start about what you're experiencing on these topics?
Sure, I can. I mean, it's been a while since I've taken this course, and I know you've updated it. But Christian, is this the course that you teach?
It is.
I knew it was because I forget what it was called when I took it. But from memory and knowing you by working with you for so long, um, Christian has a huge network. Lots of people come to Christian and talk to him. He really has a great grasp of what people want to know, what people are asking, whether it's from the donor side or from the sides of the colleagues, the people we fundraise for and with. So, maybe you can talk about Christian when I did that course in person with you, and I know that they are virtual now, but do you still give people that ability to have that conversation together? Because I found that was the most beneficial about because you can ask the questions that are important to you and you can learn from other people and the things that they're asking about.
Absolutely. So just because this program is all available online and asynchronous doesn't mean that there isn't interactions with your peers. So every course in the certificate has very active discussion board opportunities where students are engaging on a particular topic that is covered in a module. And so the issue around donor behavior or changing demographics is plays large in the course that I teach, which is the current issues course. We talk about digital fundraising. We talk about gaming and lotteries. We talk about the ways in which all of those newer models and trends are influencing fundraising practice. And you'll be able to exchange ideas get examples, and also kind of be with your fellow students in wrestling with some of those topics through the discussion board, through some group assignments, and also, of course, through knowledge transfer and sharing. What we have also developed in the Chang School, or at least in this certificate, is a LinkedIn group for students and alumni and friends of the program, where the conversations kind of carry on outside of the formal class setting, which has been great. It's also a great place for employers to post jobs, and we see a lot of people tuning into opportunities that are available in the sector. And it's also a great way for you to be able to kind of keep in touch with your fellow students and students from different cohorts.
I'm just going to add one more thing to that. Those discussion boards, going back to your questions about do you talk about current trends? Um, Having that network of your peers where they're coming from different parts of different types of organizations and experiencing different challenges and learning different things. I still stay in touch with many of the people who I took those courses with a decade ago. And we use those relationships to find out about each other's businesses and find out about, I think it's having those conversations can continue to keep you up on what is happening and what is changing in the industry.
Right.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for sharing that from both of you. Next question is from Cheyenne Williams. Thank you for your question. If you already have some experience with fundraising, what would be the next most important course to take?
Hmm. Well, that's a great question, Cheyenne. And I would say that it really depends on where you want to take your career next, or what you're really passionate or interested about, where there may be a gap in your learning. For example, some people are really interested in learning more about data and the importance of data. Some people really want to think a bit more philosophically, or think about some of the kind of macro level challenges that are influencing the fundraising world. And so that would be the current issues course, or the trends course. The other course around different strategies one can incorporate into an organization, major gifts, annual giving, event-based fundraising, is covered in fundraising strategies and practices. So it really kind of depends on where you want to take it next in terms of the skill set you want to develop. But we're finding that a lot of our students are interested not necessarily in what's most important, but what their organization really needs to take it to the next level. So is it about kind of really organizing the charity from the inside and operations getting really kind of souped up? Or is it really about looking at the tools and tactics one needs to be able to grow your donor base?
Yeah, lots of different moving parts there to consider. Thank you for that answer. So I'll move to the next question, which is for Michelle. For someone who's considering both the certificate and the CFRA, how would you compare the value in building a foundation for a fundraising career? Like, did the certificate help, I guess, to prepare for the exam? If you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, it was really important for me to get the certificates. I just wanted that behind me, because especially when I was junior in my career, I did it, of course, while I was working full time as a fundraiser, and it was important for me to do all of the courses, just to kind of have that. I find that when you do all of the courses, it gives you such a broad, strong foundation. For the CFRE, I would say that would come later. There are there are eligibility and things for with the CFRE that you have to have raise a certain amount of money every year. You have to do a certain number of hours in the sector. You even have to have a certain amount of education points that you earn. So I find that I don't think I would have been prepared to do that when I was really, really junior. I think that's something as you get a little bit further on in your career that's how it made more sense for me in any case. And then it's also another great milestone to work towards.
And that's a really good point, Michelle. All of these courses are eligible for CFRE education points. So when you apply uh, to the CFRE program to take the courses there and write the exam, you have to basically attest to the kinds of learning you've done in advance. And so all of our courses count for the education component of that application, which is great.
Yeah, that is a huge plus for anyone taking them, and thank you for sharing that because I think a lot of our learners they when we're speaking to them they want to know what's next, right? So like Michelle said, it's something great to keep working towards, and the fact that the contents of it align with the CFRE is great. So thanks for sharing that. So I'll next question is for you, Krishan. You mentioned redesigning the certificate recently. What were the major changes that were there? If you could share a little bit about
In
that.
the fundraising sector, well, there have been many changes to the sector over the last decade or so. And this course or this certificate, it really pays attention to some of the things that we believe will be enduring features of the sector. There is, for example, conversations, and Michelle mentioned the course that I used to teach, which was called donor-centered fundraising. And in recent years, we've seen a new movement to a different form of philosophy around how charities consider donors not necessarily at the center, but as part of a number of stakeholder groups that are equally as important in influencing the sector and change in the sector. And so in this program, we talk about that. We look at the pros and cons of a donor-centered approach and the emerging need for us to be thinking about the impact of our beneficiaries and other important groups as a way to advance equity and inclusion in the sector. Technology has also created a kind of borderlessness around fundraising so that your donors aren't necessarily the people who are just in your own backyard or accessing your charity by walking through the doors, but really looking at the impact you're having through the stories you're telling on social media, through television and radio and other forms. And so that borderless quality that your best donor is the one that's the closest to you is changing through technology and through media. And so we look at that in this revised version of the certificate. And then, of course, the ways in which data is analyzed, how AI is supporting fundraising efforts, the ethics around using AI is something we wrestle with in this course as well. This course is really kind of like a modern version of the older curriculum because we've kept tried and true to what is enduring to the sector, the various tools that have yielded great fundraising results for charity leaders, but at the same time, really thinking about cutting edge, new, experimental, and sometimes contentious ways in which the sector is being considered. So it's as I said earlier, the art and science of fundraising, but it's also about the future of fundraising. And that's something that you'll be part of when you take the certificate, but also with your peers, you'll be able to talk about what the future should look like.
That's a great answer. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. So next one, let's move right along to the next. We have a few more open questions here. For someone coming in from a different background, example business or social services, how transferable are the skills taught in the program? And I think it ties with the next question there as well, which is, someone who's working in arts and culture and looking to pivot my skills into fundraising and development, since the arts and culture sector relies heavily on donors and grants. How much of the course is focused on grant writing? So, different background and then arts and culture, grant writing. If you can both touch on a little bit, because I know, Michelle, you had a different background as well.
Sure, Michelle, you want to go first about changing
Good.
careers?
I mean, because it was a big change for me. I went from designing children's clothes to working in the nonprofit sector. I think in some ways it matters less about what your background is, what you're in now, into as finding out what the needs are to be working in the fundraising sector and where your natural skills, talents, and even your own inclinations take you. There are so many different jobs. You don't have to just be a frontline fundraiser. There's lots of different administrative support, back end, like there's writers, there's so many different types of jobs. I honestly think that's why I like the certificate program because it opened up my eyes to all of that stuff. So I think there's not no straightforward answer to that question because we're all individuals. But in taking some of these courses, I think it will help tease out within you where your skills could be transferable.
Yeah, if I can maybe build on that, there are some of our students come with such great experiences in the human services, in social work, in nursing, in areas that are considered oftentimes the helping professions. That lends so nicely into the world of fundraising because what we're really doing is trying to, through philanthropy, through the generosity of communities, really have an impact on helping people and causes. And then, of course, there are people who have experiences in the world of law or the world of accounting or business, which also lends itself nicely to fundraising because this is really organizing a space, an institution, a charity, such that it has these processes and ethical underpinnings that allow it to do that good work. So, what you'll come across in this program are really people who are trying to put all of these things together as a way to be able to say, look, I had this career and I think I can apply a lot of what I've understood in that previous role into this work of fundraising. And so creativity and design is also another area, especially as we think about ethical storytelling, where we see a growing number of students coming from those kinds of backgrounds in advertising, for example.
Great, thank you. Thanks for that answer. And I don't know if you touched on that a little bit. There was the last part of the question was how much of the course is focused on grant writing?
Sorry, yeah. And in fact, there is a module in one of the courses where we do focus entirely on grant writing and some of the pro tips that you get from experts, as well as some examples of successful grants that have been written and the ways in which you can apply that to a future grant that you may be writing or involved in.
Awesome. So let's move on to, I think, technology a little bit. We have a question about, how ethical is the use of AI in this industry, and also, does the program include training or exposure to, systems or AI or any CRM, donor management systems, anything like that?
I'll start with that question. Yes, we the course on data analytics uses a open source CRM to be able to test out some of the exercises within data analytics, broadly speaking. There are lots of CRMs out there to support the charitable sector and fundraising operations, and you are introduced to each of them in the operations of fundraising course. That said, we don't ask you to purchase any CRM, even on a trial basis, to be able to test that out. But what's most important really is the ways in which CRMs are used kind of from a macro level that you can apply into a specific CRM based on the charity that you're working for, that you're hoping to join. With regards to AI, it's very interesting. This is such a hot topic right now and it is everywhere, really, not just in fundraising, but probably across every sector. In the ways in which AI is challenging kind of the labor market and the workforce, the ways in which AI is also doing donor engagement, the ways in which stories are told using AI and prompts for that. So the question is really, how do we ensure that we create a human-centric fundraising community with the ethical use of AI and other tools that can be used to be more efficient, but at the same time takes a harder look at some of the challenges inherent with AI. One of the things that I teach in my course is around bias and AI. Who is AI? how is AI coded? Who codes it? And what does that mean in terms of issues around equity? And how does that, what does that mean in terms of its output and the way we use that output?
Yeah, definitely an evolving hot topic that changes almost every week. So thanks for providing that perspective. Next, we'll move to a question is for Michelle. What type of role were you able to get based on coming from an industry that was not part of the nonprofit or fundraising sector? Any tips on applying for that kind of role where postings are often looking for someone from experience?
Yeah, that's a complicated question. And I'm not sure that everybody would necessarily follow the same path that I did. I went from a fairly senior role in product development when I worked in fashion to starting over at the coordinator level when I started in the sector. I did that purposefully because I wanted to make sure that I gave myself the opportunity to really wrap my arms around what the work was all about and learn as much about from the ground up. Um, and I do feel I chose places to work at that accelerated my learning, despite, I was working over some of the roles that I was in. Um, but that without that foundation for me, I need that, the type of person I am, to be able to do my job well in a senior position. So I did start off at a coordinator job when I was at CAMH Foundation, and I quick moved around and quickly moved up there. And Christian, I think you were in my role when you hired me,
That's
and
right.
yeah, and you hired me as associate director. So it was a support role for the executive director, but it also had some frontline fundraising opportunities for myself. I will be completely honest. Christian and asked told me I should apply because I he saw my work in his class. So that's why I say I truly do credit this course as having exposed myself to the professionals who have been instrumental in my career. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I guess by the time I came to TMU, and I knew that I had some affinity to frontline fundraising work because I'd kind of done all of that basic work earlier. And so those are the roles by then I was able to start to target what type of role I wanted to go into.
Yeah,
If
so
I could just quickly add
figuring,
to
yeah,
that,
go ahead.
can I just quickly add to that? One of the
Yeah,
things,
absolutely.
Michelle's a very special person. She was an excellent student and also had really deep insights into where she like wanted to match her passions with this career that she's doing so well in. And just really flying high on some incredible philanthropic moments for our city and our university through her efforts. One of the things that I've come to see as the academic coordinator in talking with potential employers or employers of grads from this program is that they all say, the students who come out of this program are so well read. They are so critical about the sector. They're so passionate about making change and making a significant contribution in their own ways. And moreover, they are ready. They're coming out of this program ready with the skills, the ideas, and the tenacity to really enact change. And so that's very encouraging to see, to hear from employers, because when you add this to your CV, it's kind of like a bing. Oh, this person will be ready when I hire them to get like with the like hitting the ground running. And that's exactly what Michelle had when she graduated from this program and joined us at TMU. And since then we've had a great partnership in fundraising, right, Michelle?
It's been a great run so far.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, that's great. You got to find that passion, right? And your affinity towards it, and then just go for it. And you'll meet people along the way that'll take your path forward. I think that's what I took away from there. I know we're almost at time, and I know everyone here is also very busy. So we'll take one last question and we'll post a poll as I read that question out for everybody to answer. But the last question is from Laura SG. Thank you for your question. It's hi, being an international development practitioner over the past 20 years. How effective would the course be to leverage the ability to navigate through current financial situation of larger donors, government or private schools. So that'll be the last question, and we'll end with that.
Sure. Yeah, we spend quite a bit of time on the partnerships between government leaders or governments and donors. We look at the ethics of large-scale philanthropy, the sort of mega check donors, check writers, I should say, and its impact on influencing change within charities. We look at also the ways in which uh, donors can give at scale, but small amounts, looking at, for example, how crowdsourcing, crowdfunding are now important ways in which we can think about not just contributions of donors financially, but also in terms of advocacy. And if I think I got your question right, this is a huge area of opportunity, particularly not just for the international aid sector per se, but also for all charities that are really focusing on kind of global issues around health, education, access to basic human rights and the rest.
Awesome way to wrap it up. Thank you so much. Krishan, a big thank you to both you and Michelle for sharing your valuable insights. Thanks also to Abby, Look, and Sandra for ensuring everything ran smoothly behind the scenes. And of course, to everybody attending and taking the time to join our online session. For more information about the certificate, please visit our website at continuing.torontomu.ca. And if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to me via my email at mesh.chaudhry@torontomu.ca. That was in the chat box. And I will send you a follow-up email with the information shared, the recording, and a survey within the next 24 to 48 hours. On behalf of the Chang School and all of our presenters and guest speakers, thank you for joining us today and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks,
Thanks.
everyone.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.